Hey guys, welcome to today's session. I am really excited about this one because I get to share my value system behind what I believe about education. And I think that plays a huge role, obviously, in the creation of this curriculum. And I think that the more you understand where I'm coming from, the easier it will be for you to decide if you kind of align with my vision or my philosophy or my beliefs about learning, and can also help evaluate this for yourself. Whether you're a Gather Round family or not, it's still really helpful to break down the different steps and the different parts of an educational philosophy to see how it all works together, why it matters, and what it means for you and your homeschool. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Really excited about it. I think it's super fun talking about the big picture behind this stuff. So let's dig in. All right, so obviously you guys got to go through a little tour of our property and see who we are, who our family is, and just get to know us a little bit more, which is great. I want to tell you a little bit, if you are new to Gather Round, about who I am as a homeschool mom without all my kids tagging along me, and just what this is all about and why it matters that it's important that I do this video. So my name is Rebecca Spooner. I am the creator of Gather Round Homeschool, and I'm a homeschool mom of obviously the 5 little ragamuffins that you saw a little bit earlier, and I was homeschooled myself. So I have really actually grown up in this whole realm of homeschooling. I have grown up trying different curriculum. When I graduated, it was only a few years later that I met my husband and got married and had children, and pretty much from the day I found out I was pregnant, I was already thinking about homeschool curriculum. Like I grew up in this. I knew what I was going to use, what I wanted to do. I was so passionate about homeschooling, and I knew that's what I wanted to do for my family. So I have been immersed in the world of homeschooling for as long as I can remember. Once, our kids were in the homeschool environment and I was actually officially homeschooling them, whenever that point counts, I really started actually blogging and reviewing curriculum. And so companies would send me curriculum, we would try it out as a family, I would take a bunch of pictures, and I would talk about it either in videos or on my blog. That's how I started. That's my background with curriculum. I do not have an education in education. I haven't gone to school and studied philosophies. I've read and I've experienced for myself what all the different curriculums are out there and what is being offered and what my value system is and how that fits in and applies to what I want to do with my family. So, being immersed in this world of education, and specifically home education, which is different than school education, I really have taken everything that I have learned and I have put those things into practice in the curriculum that we're talking about a lot during this convention, which is Gather Round Homeschool. So why it's important for me to do this video is I want to explain all of the different things that have gone into this. I want to explain the things that I saw that I loved in curriculum that I pulled out and I put inside here like little nuggets, like little treasures, and the things that I did not love, that I left out. Gather Round, as you're going to discover today, is not any one specific homeschool style or method. It really is something different than what is out there. And you can agree with that or disagree with that, but the point is that I really took what I loved about each different method because they all have their strengths and weaknesses, at least for my family and in my experience, and I hodgepodged that and put it together into what is the unique method and style of Gather Round Homeschool. So briefly, I want to tell you a little bit about how Gather Round Homeschool started. I mean, you've heard, okay, I grew up being homeschooled. I homeschooled my own children. Now I'm a blogger. I'm speaking, I'm traveling, I'm trying out curriculum, and I'm telling the world what I think about it. So what prompted me to decide to write my own curriculum? I mean, if you look out there, those of you that maybe are even new to homeschooling and you just have started researching curriculum, it's overwhelming, okay? There's a million options. I don't even think that's an overstatement. It's probably an understatement. The homeschool curriculum market has exploded from when I was a child being homeschooled and the very few options that my parents had because it was not commonplace, to specifically today, 2021, where COVID has caused a lot more families to consider homeschooling that maybe never would have considered it before. Our market and our curriculum is exploding. And while that's a wonderful thing because there are options for everybody and every situation, it can be a daunting thing and it can be overwhelming. So why did I decide to throw myself out there and to be just more noise in the homeschool curriculum market? How that came about was basically I was using this hodgepodge of curriculum from all these different companies with my children. And I really have a lot of passion for curriculum. I think that's what made me love to talk about it. I loved reviewing it. I loved assessing it and seeing its strengths and weaknesses and adapting it for my kids. If I had ever gone to college or university for anything, it would have been to be a teacher because I've always been passionate about education from when I was a child. So with this passion for education, I basically was using all this different stuff and I was getting burnt out, like we talked about this morning, but not just burnt out, I was frustrated and I felt overwhelmed and I felt like the biggest part that I was struggling with wasn't that this was bad. This stuff was great. This curriculum was fantastic, but there was so much of it and I needed so much of it for each individual kid, for each individual need. They needed supplements, they needed help, they needed adaptations, they needed, different learning styles and different approaches and different methods, and I could not keep up. There is one of me, there was 5 of them with all of their different subjects and sub-subjects and categories. And then there's all the extra things that homeschoolers love to add. And all of a sudden, we were scheduled in. If I was doing everything on my list for school, we would be starting at 8 o'clock and we would go until dinner time. And I would be an amazing homeschool mom who lived in absolute chaos because I could never have time to clean. And I don't know if dinner would even happen. And that's all I would do. Now remember, I was a curriculum blogger and a reviewer, so it wasn't all I did. I had to also take pictures and have time to write and have time to record while my kids were somewhere, shh, be quiet, mommy's busy right now. So I was busy and I was jumping around from child to child to child, and I knew that they were getting a quality education, but I felt like I was being divided up, like I was being cut. You know the story in the Bible where Solomon was dealing with these 2 people who came to him, 2 mothers, and they were fighting over this baby. And it's, really actually quite a gruesome picture. But he said, fine, okay, let's just cut the baby in half and you can both have, what you want. And of course the mother was like, no, she can have her because that's my baby. And he realized, he said, that's the true mother. And it was like this picture of wisdom. I felt like I was being divided, like just pieces of me everywhere. I needed to have a piece of me for my husband. I needed pieces of me for my children just to be their mother. Which, by the way, when you're educator and cook and cleaner and all of those things, there's actually sometimes I felt like I'm being a great homeschooler, I'm being a great teacher, but I'm not necessarily able to meet all of my kids' emotional needs. Now they need to have discussions. I know this one's feeling a little left out. This one's having an attitude problem. I need to take them out. We need to have some talk. I need to be mom now. I need to put on my mom hat. And I just was feeling, honestly, so flustered all the time. I used to make jokes. I used to say, it's the kind of day that, you need extra deodorant for. This was my life. And I know that so many of you guys can relate to this. And for those of you that haven't started homeschooling, I don't want to freak you out. I don't want you to think that's what it always is like. I have 5 children. It's a lot, and they all are very different in their needs. But for me, with the amount I wanted to do, because I love education, I just felt like I was constantly failing. And so I hit this point in my life where I prayed and I just gave it all to God, and I felt like God said, you know what? Take it all away, all pressure, all curriculum. I'm like, what? Okay. Now I love aspects of unschooling so much. But I had never been able to fully invest myself in that because I also love curriculum so much. And so here I was being asked to literally do nothing. Now, do nothing meaning explore with my kids, talk with my kids, discuss with my kids, read with my kids. Didn't mean that I did nothing, but it meant that all that curriculum that I was doing with my children, I felt like I was just asked to push the reset button, take a breath, and just wait. And this was around spring. Some of you, if you ever have listened to my podcast, I talked about it. I talked about what I felt God was asking me to do. I pulled back from absolutely everything. And we might have still done art, or we might have, but not in a curriculum. Only as we did in our natural daily life, as we felt prompted to do, or as I felt inspired to do. And I felt like this was a little bit of a chance for me to breathe and to really even discover what I wanted to do. Because sometimes you get so caught up in just going through the motions and survival mode that you just don't even really look up to realize, wait, what do I even want here? And so recognizing, what am I doing in my homeschool just because everyone else is doing it and it looks good? And what am I doing or not doing that I'm actually really passionate and excited about? So this time, this pause, this great reset in my life, it gave me this opportunity to really reflect on my homeschool and to wait on what God was saying. And around this time, it was a few months later, it was probably about 4 to 5 months of this. It was really all spring. That's when I went away and I was like, well, what does this mean for my business specifically? This is what I asked God. What does this mean for me as a blogger? I'm a curriculum blogger. So this is awkward, and I'm looking at a new year, and I don't know what you want me to do. And that's where Gather Round was born. I never intended to be more noise in the homeschool market. I never looked at everything and thought, I can do better. That's not where my heart behind Gather Round is. Instead, I was a mom who was pulled every which way and direction, and I was just following what I felt like God was saying to me, which was personally in my own life before this ever was born, just to take a break, step back, and just be still and know and listen to what God was saying to me. And then after many months of this, I think I was available and I was able, with enough space, to see what I felt like God was calling me to do next. And what I love about Gather Round is He was calling me to do it not just because it's a movement and it's a way of education that is different, that I know is impacting families around the world, but also for me. I think it's so cool that God can take something in your life and He can say, I'm going to use this exponentially all over the place. Like, this is not just about you, but you know what? It is also about you. I love it when He does that, because He doesn't ask me to forsake everything that I am and to throw it all to the wayside and just live my life sacrificing in order to do this great calling He has called me to. No, He says, Rebecca, what other thing? If I can do Gather Round with my family when I am working the amount I'm working, and you guys have no idea how much I work or how little school we do sometimes, but if I can do this, literally anyone can. Anybody can, because this is possible. And this is the only thing that would be possible for my family to do and still feel like we can fit in all the subjects. And really more than that, because of how busy I am, when we do gather together, it is special and it means something. And so that takes me to, now you know a little bit of the backstory, what my philosophy and value of education is, why I really was discontent, and the things that you're going to see that are the framework for the curriculum and the units that you might be interested in or trying a trial of or have been using to have a better understanding of where that's coming from. What is the source, okay? All right, so I really think that I'm going to break it down by a couple of things. The first one is my values, and really not just my values, but what I hope to get out of this. So when you're assessing your own values, this is really good to do while you're following along and learning more about mine. I think, get a pen and piece of paper and sit down and think about yourself at the same time. Write down this first section, say, what do I want to get out of this? What's my goal? What's my most important things that I care about at the end of the day? When you strip away competition, when you strip away fear of missing out, what do you want to see out of this? Your values, not just what's important to you, but what's important to you that you actually get out of this and your kids get out of this. Also, so that's kind of the first section. The next section we're going to talk about is how are you going to do that? Because there are some things things that you, okay, this is the big picture, okay, you're thinking like the big goal, the 10-year goal. Now you need to look at the actionable steps, the 1-year plan that is going to help you achieve that 10-year goal. So this 1-year plan is, okay, in this school year, what are some of the things that I know on a day-to-day basis are either pointing me more towards my desired outcome or are pointing me away from my desired outcome, or possibly just distracting me from what actually truly matters. So you look big picture first of what do you actually hope to achieve, and also your values of what you actually care about. And then you go and you zoom in a little bit more and you look at, okay, now what's the how? Really, what's the how? How do I care about the how? What methods do I want to see to make those things happen? So let's start off with the first one. I have them written down, okay, because there's a lot. I actually have a lot of values of education. Okay, so my first value is connection. And this is actually really two things, because it's one of my most important things. Listen, I don't want to just sit down with my kids and read them a book and have them totally disengaged. I don't want to sit down with my kids and do school and have them frustrated or melting down or why do I have to do this and whining. I don't want to sit down and do school with my kids and say, let's get this done, and I'm irritated and I'm impatient and I'm, yelling or whatever. That is not what I want out of my homeschool. So as soon as I see any of those things creeping in, I know that there is something that is not aligning with my values. And quite frankly, sometimes I just get cranky because I know that this day is not aligning with what I actually want my homeschool to be, which is a homeschool where we connect as a family. I don't want to be dividing myself up kid by kid by kid by kid. I wanted us to be able to gather together, to learn together, to facilitate relationships between my children, to see them grow in their character as they learned how to speak to their siblings, how to love one another, how to live in peace with one another. I wanted to show and model my kids. I wanted them to see that connection. I wanted them to look at me and see my love of learning, but also my love of them. I want them to look back on their homeschool experience, no matter what that was, with nostalgia and a warmth, just this warm feeling in their heart. I know that we probably will never be the family, and I had friends like this where you go over and it's just like, you walk into someone's house and it's just that warm, inviting atmosphere. Literally, their house is warm. It's just warm and it smells good. And there's something cooking and there's a candle lit and there's pretty flowers on the table and it's so clean. And it just makes you want to go in and but it's homey, not too clean. You know what I mean? Like just homey and warm and inviting, and there's tea and it's like, come in, okay? That's probably not us. We're like running all over the place. I mean, I'm running a company. We are busy. My life probably is not something that our kids are going to look back on and be like, oh, remember when we got for like a solid week, like takeout and order in food? Because you were working on launches, okay? Like, that's not what I can offer my kids for nostalgia. I mean, we might laugh about it one day. I might cry about it one day, but that's not really it. But you can offer your kids that in the connection that you have in the moments and in the conversations. And that's what I want. That's what I want for my kids. And in fact, that's probably the most important thing to me, is a heart-to-heart connection with my children and them with each other. But this is where this is a two-tier thing, connection with learning in general, where everything is connected, where everything makes sense. Your body, if you think about your body, the way God created us, we are created with connections. We are created not just to connect with other people, that is a huge part of what we are created for, but also literally and physically, we have connections all throughout. Our entire circulatory system connects. Our nervous system connects. We have sensations, we've got nerves in our fingertips, and they are sending impulses all along this journey to our brains. okay? Everything connects. Inside our brains, there's neural pathways that are being made. And the more that you use those neural pathways, okay, they go from being like nothing, no trail in the woods, to being a little like hunting trail through the woods, to being like a road that's easily accessible, okay? You know how to get to that road. You can do it on autopilot because you've built the pathway and you've used that pathway. This is learning. And I really deeply care that things are connecting in my kids' heads and that it's making sense and that it matters. That matters to me. Learning being a way of life. I want my kids to learn how to learn, but more importantly than that, I want it to be a way of life. I want lifelong learners. I want my kids to see our entire family to be learning together because, see, they're in this place where they have to do school, but when they see me learning with them, when they see me discovering with them, I'm literally modeling for them that this is not just something you do when you're in school. This is something for life. I value making learning a way of life, where my kids can have the humility to learn, the humbleness to learn, the passion and the interest in learning, the investment and the dedication to learn. They know what it takes and they're willing to do it because they know the reward that waits for them. I want my kids to go through the whole process of learning and to value the process of learning so that it is something that they do all throughout. Because of this, listen, I care less about what they're learning about, and I care more about the process and how they're taking ownership of it and what the result is of it. And if they're going through that and beginning to see the reward of their hard work of learning for themselves. Yes, I can bribe my kids to read a book, and I have. However, if they can choose to do it on their own because they're interested, because they want to discover something, because they got emotionally invested in a story, they're going to get the natural reward from that. And yeah, they may come to me and be like, guess what, I did it, but they didn't actually do it for me. And even if I say, wow, that's really good because I was distracted and busy, there's still this inner sense of pride and accomplishment that they will carry with them forever. And that takes them all the way through this journey of education where they learned not just because they had to, but because they wanted to, and they invested and they pushed through even though it was hard or took some sort of sacrifice for them, and they received the reward for what they had done. That is what I want for my kids. I want learning to be fun. Listen, if it isn't fun, I don't want to do it. I really don't. When I go and I do school with my kids, if it's not fun, if we're just not, like there's bad attitudes and no one's really into it, I'm like, why are we doing this? Okay, let's just do it when we can actually enjoy it. I want my kids to love to learn, but I also want to love to learn. I don't want to homeschool and just sacrifice me for the sake of my children. I want us to actually engage in the process and enjoy it. I want memorable learning that matters. I don't care about a list of facts. I don't care about a list of dates and names. You know what? My kids, one day they're going to go somewhere. I have personally had this, and people are awful, and they're like, you're homeschooled. You don't know. Stupid things, okay? When I went to places and would say like, no, I don't know any artist names. I don't. I literally don't. I don't listen to the radio. I was sheltered when I was growing up, okay? I don't know them. And people would mock me and make fun of me, but ultimately, do I care if I know the artist today or the artist then? This is a good song. I don't really know who sings it or who wrote it. I don't care. It just was something that didn't matter to me. I don't care if my kids learn random facts and trivia or remember it. I care that what they're learning about matters, that it is shaping their perspectives, that they are learning and it is impacting them in such a way that they view the world differently. They respond differently because of what they have learned. They take it and they do something with it because it actually meant something to them. I care about rewarding learning, and we talked about that before. I care about God, and this is like the biggest part of it, God being at the center of everything. And I have used a lot of great Christian curriculum, but I wanted something that put him, not just talks about him, but puts him at the center of it, this picture of gathering around with Jesus in the middle. I want it not just to talk about. I want it to be all about. and sourced from. And we were doing this kind of team exercise, and we were talking about everybody's strengths and weaknesses and really the things that we bring to the table. And one of the things was wonder. And we were talking about who in our team has kind of this gift of wonder, really brings that vision to it. Where is it coming from? And what was interesting is that they the people that they say have like wonder, and I know this probably doesn't make sense because it's a very specific new style of like learning what your business giftings are, but the people that have wonder, they say, are kind of, maybe they're like when they're kids, maybe they're kind of head in the clouds. They can kind of get lost in something and think about it, and I wonder, like, what would that, like very hypothetical, very like not necessarily doing anything about it. Maybe they struggle with the doing, but they just love the postulating, okay? And when we did this, I realized that is not me. That was like a point of frustration for me. My husband is that, definitely. Jonathan is all wonder. He could sit and talk, and we do, for hours upon hours upon hours. I can lose a whole day talking with my husband and dreaming about the future, but it's actually really hard for me because I am somebody that's like, I can talk for a little bit and then I want to do it. I'm the doer. I am a doer. I want to like take that big picture and make it possible. That's where I thrive. And so I'm looking at this and I'm considering Gather Round, and I'm thinking, we do have people in our team that have this gift, but the ideas, where they're coming from, and as I was praying about it, I felt like God is the wonder in this company. He is truly the one that has vision casted. When I prayed about and came up with the idea for Gather Round, I didn't just come up with this idea of, let's do unit studies, okay? By the way, actually, and this is quite embarrassing, I had not used a unit study before I started Gather Round. I still have never used another unit study. I never used them. I created little ones, but I have never used any other one in our homeschool. So I definitely did not have this idea of let's do unit studies. I had this idea of what if you could teach all your kids together? What if, Rebecca, this was possible? And as I sat down in my journal and I wrote it down, and I have it somewhere, I have about 8 million journals with 3 pages written in them, I wrote down everything. I wanted there to be this many notebooks, one for each level. I wanted it to be complete and fleshed out. I had the ideas for everything, and I really believe, and I walk with faith, believing that the Bible says every good and perfect gift comes from above, that God is the wonder of this company. He is the captain at the helm of the ship, that he is the one, he's the rudder at the back of the ship. He is the one turning it and directing it and leading it and guiding it and inspiring us and motivating us. And that is like the biggest part of what he does for, I believe, this company. And it's the biggest thing that I want for my children. And so being able to see and pray about and feel like we go back to not the drawing board, we go back to our knees and pray about each unit and what God wants to do and what he wants to say and how he wants to move, and be able to have that fresh perspective each and every unit has been one of the greatest honors of what I have been able to be a part of. So really exciting. Okay, those are my goals. That's all of them. My values of education, but specifically what I want to see. What is the big picture, most important things to me? Now, how matters as well. So I really, and you'll see this in Gather Round, I really have taken all of the educational philosophies and taken what I loved from them and put them together. So some people call that eclectic. If you're new to homeschooling, you might know, you might not be aware of all of these homeschool philosophies, and that's really okay. You don't have to go and study them, all right? But I'm going to explain some of the elements that we have pulled from different educational philosophies to create something that is very different. So one of them is unschooling. I definitely, like I said, I have actually now can say definitely we have experienced complete unschooling. There is radical unschooling where you do really nothing, and I have done that. And there is a type of unschooling where it's very intentional, where you are following your children's interests. They take the lead. So when they're interested in something, rather than forcing them and saying, sit down, let's do this book, you're actually following their interest, and it's called child-directed learning. I think that that is an amazing, amazing, amazing value. Now, I don't have that necessarily in everything that I do, and part of that is I have 5 children, and I know how impractical it is to have a curriculum that would possibly meet what all my kids are interested in. We did the transportation unit, and most of the kids actually are quite interested in it. My daughter is like, please, no. Could I skip it? Could I do one on my own? Like, I don't want to do that. I hate cars. Like, she's just so not into it. So every kid is different. Meanwhile, some of the other kids, she would go crazy over this unit, and some of the other kids might be like, really? I'm not so excited about that. So I can't possibly cater to all of my kids' needs and desires and interests and passions. Again, I would be a chicken with my head cut off, running after each one of them for that, especially when they're younger. As they get older, child-directed learning becomes more of being able to just facilitate and to, cheer them on. But when they're younger, it really takes a lot more effort from you to help them be able to learn about what they're interested in learning about. So we really took that concept of unschooling and child-directed learning by creating separate units that are not a full year, but rather being individual topics and focuses for each month of the school year. So we do 10 units in a year. That gives you 10 different things to choose from. And if you are just jumping into the journey right now, you have so many units to choose from. You can go and choose any unit that your child is interested in, and you will have so much more success just because they're actually invested and interested in the lessons. And if you have multiple kids, you can switch them around. Montessori, one of the biggest things that we took from Montessori, and people again may agree or disagree with us. Definitely, we are not a Montessori curriculum. Okay, we're not. However, I value the Montessori style of education with everything being hands-on learning. I do think, regardless of whether you have a kinesthetic hands-on learner or not, I think that if you can do it yourself, if you can build it, if you can touch it, if you can feel it, if you can see it and like how it works and pull that out, it is one of the best ways of learning. It really reinforces. You can hear it, you can see it, but when you actually do it. And I've seen this training people in our warehouse. They can see it, we can tell them over and over and over, but it's not until they start to make those mistakes for themselves that they really learn. So I believe that hands-on is the best. Okay, I do. Now, I also believe that for myself, if I had to do hands-on all the time, I wouldn't want to do it. I would lose my motivation, my drive. I don't have the time. I don't really have the personal interest, and now it becomes not fun for me, and so it's not fun for anyone. So one of the things that's been challenging, and you'll see that in year 1 and year 2 as we've navigated, how do we do hands-on and yet not hands-on? It's very, very tricky, by the way. What we're more and more finding is that we're creating these hands-on activity suggestions for you guys to be able to say, I want to launch into this and I want to do something very hands-on, but then giving adaptations for others. So you might be able to do that optional activity, or maybe in a student page, we have them do an activity, but we say, don't have time, no worries, watch a video about this instead. So trying to give multiple different ways for you to do it, but we really try to incorporate as much prompts for hands-on as we can. Obviously, the unit study is really what we've taken from the unit study method of homeschooling is actually the concept. We've taken the concept of a unit study and we've tried to bring in parts of unschooling and child-directed learning, and we've tried to bring in parts of Montessori, and I'm going to talk about classical and Charlotte Mason next. So classical is I have not, honestly, I don't know everything about everything. I don't. I'll be the first to say that, okay? But one of the things with classical education is that it's really divided up into ages and stages and developmental abilities. So it's actually this scientific approach to when your kids are younger. They are geared towards information. They can actually memorize a lot. They are learning their language. They're learning so much, and God created their brains to be able to process mass amounts of information and memorize it. So you can capitalize on their natural development in that time by doing lots of memory work. So in the classical method, there's lots of Latin, there's lots of work that happens in those younger ages in a different way because they're really geared towards memorization. When you're dealing with the 12 up, that's when you're starting to require a lot more work from your child. But really, it isn't until they're approaching high school, like their older ages, that you're starting to require them to have their own independent thoughts on things. Because before then, you can ask your kid. I could go ask my kids what they think about politics, and they're going to probably parrot anything they've heard us say because they don't actually know. Now, even if we did a lesson on politics and we talked about it, they really are still formulating who they are, what they believe on things, their own values and perspectives. They have a very hard time both processing their own thoughts on it and articulating that. So that's kind of the natural progression. So I have taken that and kept that in the back of my head, both in the value system of not dumbing things down for our younger kids who can actually do and process a lot more than we think they can, but also not expecting very much of our younger kids as far as output, and being able to then expect a lot more from our high schoolers, not just in output, but in and middle schoolers, gearing them up for more independent thought and taking it back to, okay, you learned this, but now let's apply it to your life. What does that mean to you today? So you'll see a lot of that in there. Charlotte Mason is one of the biggest ones that I've pulled from, and that's just because I love Charlotte Mason. And you know, a lot of people would say, we are not Charlotte Mason. And again, we're not any of these things, but we have pulled a lot from Charlotte Mason. Some of those things are no busy work. That's a big one for us. A lot of people look at our early reader and they're like, this is way too easy for my kids. It's not about the amount of work. This might be less amount of work than you're used to, but it's actually the same amount of learning. I'm just not requiring them to read and write, read and write, read and write. I'm actually just saying, let's read the same information that the older kids are doing, but instead of just having to write to show what you learned, let's discuss it. Let's talk about it. Let's build something about it. Or let's just do the learning and draw a picture about how that impacted you or what it would be like for you if you had that. So really trying to keep the written output to when we're actually teaching writing so that it doesn't become daunting and overwhelming. You'll see that in our pages. I try not to do a lot of let's do, what are they? Word searches, or I really try to make everything intentional and make sure that everything has meaning and purpose. It's not just there to fill a page. So if we do some sort of a cutout, if we do some sort of it's because they're pasting it beside the vocabulary word and it has meaning and it has purpose to it. Living books. So again, there's lots of people that would probably say they totally disagree that our stuff is living books. Others would say definitely, and some would probably say some units are and some units aren't. We have had different writers and we have been learning and growing, and I have been getting more and more involved in the writing process as things have gone. And so because of that, there has been a change unit to unit, and it isn't always the exact same thing, but more and more we are heading the direction, and I would say, of a living book. And really what a living book is that it is written by someone who makes it come to life. So a lot of people will say it's written by an expert, and that's not necessarily the case. In fact, I've seen a lot of experts that are very dry, dull, and boring. So instead, I actually think that people who are learning it are the most excited and passionate about it. So when I'm looking for writers, even for myself, I'll be the first to tell you, and up the side tangent, okay, I don't know everything. And if I were to go hire somebody who had a degree in science or had a degree in psychology or had a degree in history, they're not going to know everything about everything. They're still going to have to go and research everything themselves because they don't know all of that stuff offhand, and they're not going to know everything. They're not an expert. Nobody is. So the people that are actually learning and discovering those things and processing it, they're actually at that perfect stage, not just to make it come to life, but to think about as they're learning the natural questions that they have in the process and make sure that they're touching on those things in a way that is taking your kids through the way that their brain is processing that information. So living books, educating the whole child, we really try to bring in Bible and character. We're not just focused on we want to train your mind. We're here to fill you with facts. No, we're here to make this an experience and to grow all together, our entire family, in who we are and what we're doing. I believe that education is a discipline. We definitely, sometimes for our kids, it's like you just need to do it. We bring in things like narration and copy work and picture studies. So there's a lot of Charlotte Mason principles that you will see in our curriculum. And the last one that's a wow, and something that I brought into it that was actually really important to me, is that these are all wonderful things. But if it is something that is lofty, hard to put into practice, doesn't make sense, takes a lot of prep work on my behalf, these are the things that it can be the best curriculum in the world, but it stalls me. We're going, and it's like, okay, I'm trying to get going in the morning, and wait, what's happening? Okay, I have to read this first. Oh, I needed supplies. Okay, like as soon as it becomes that, it doesn't work for me. And it's not that the curriculum is bad, it's just that that's my life. I needed something that was open and go. And so that is like one of the biggest things. How can we create something that has Charlotte Mason principles and unschooling principles and classical kind of perspective in the back of our heads and unit study and approach and unschool, like, you know, all these things. And at the same time, we want it to be the traditional model in the sense that I want open and go. I don't want to prep. I don't want to go get supplies. I literally want to open my book and go. So we've put a lot of extra things in there, like book list and supply lists and for optional hands-on activities and different things like that. But the reality is you don't need any of those. You could open, read from the teacher's guide, and do your school books. That's it. I've never used our book lists once. I have a library of books downstairs, and I just go downstairs and I say, choose a book to read, or I choose a read aloud that we're going to do that month. I have so many books. Maybe you don't, and it's just something you can use as inspiration to go and find a book to read together as a family, or maybe some nice picture books to read. But it is just in there as an optional thing because we want to give you guys as much as we can. It's like an extra bonus. It is not in there. The hands-on activities are all optional. All you need is a pen, a piece of paper, like your note. You don't even need paper. You have a notebook for that. Like really, you don't need anything for this. Maybe the computer to look up a few things if you need to find a map or whatever else. So we have tried to make this open and go, and it's something that I'm always working on. How can I improve in that to make sure that we're simplifying things for the parents, that we're not having to bounce around and divide ourselves. Okay, I'm pretty close to done here. So, okay, we're some people call us eclectic. Maybe we're just something new entirely at this point. I don't know. Our first name that we kind of chose when I was working this out, I had come back and I quickly wrote a little sample and I got a designer and we designed it and we put it out there and we said, this is what we're doing. And the first, we didn't have a name and I didn't know what to do, but I knew I needed to launch it because it was summer and we needed to get it out, was the Family Style Curriculum. And that wasn't the name and I knew it, but it was the heart. That was the heart of this curriculum. So if you're wanting to know what is the values, what is the approach, what's the style of this, hopefully that's helped answer some of those. But really the heart of this is something that is designed for families. I feel like a lot of curriculum, and this is home education curriculum, is not designed for homeschoolers. I would say most. Everything that I have used in my life, and I have used a lot of stuff, it is not designed for homeschoolers. It is designed for home educators. And I don't know, like whatever, we can term those however we want, but the idea is they're designed for you to open and teach, just like they do at school, to your child and have the answer key. They're not designed for a family who has 5 kids, all needing their 7 individual subjects. So 5 times 7, I mean, like you guys, I can't even fit that into a day. I can't teach 30 plus subjects to all of my different kids in all of their different levels, in all of their different books, wrapping my head around what each one needs and wants and should be learning or doing or adapting. I can't do that. I can't do that. And I didn't want curriculum. Curriculum, when you go and look it up, it is basically subjects related to a course of study, okay? I didn't just want a bunch of subjects. That's not what I wanted. I wanted this cohesive style of learning that was not just made to do at home. It was made to be done as a family. And that is really the core, the root of Gather Round Homeschool. One of the things I believe about education is that we can't force education on our children. I talk about this a lot, but really we can't. I can take my child and I can give them a book, and I could even force them to do their work, but I can't actually force them to remember it. I can't. They have to meet us halfway. If our kids have to meet us halfway, if that's part of what learning is all about, then let's make it irresistible. Let's make it engaging. Let's make it interesting. Let's find as many random topics as we possibly can to capture as many different interests as we possibly can. Let's gear it towards every learning style that we possibly can. Let's make it engaging and interesting and hands-on and rich and deep and full of discussions and discovery. Let's make it that. Let's make it beautiful and design it in a way that our kids are captivated, that they just want to look at that picture one more time. Let's make it absolutely irresistible for our children. That's my goal behind this. Every time I'm doing it, I'm thinking of my most challenging children, the ones who just hate school. That's who I'm writing this for. I'm like, if I can pull them in, okay, or if I can pull myself in, sometimes for things that I just know, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? And I love writing. I have a love-hate relationship with those units because it takes a lot out of me to write those units, but I also love writing those units in the way that I am determined that I have to find a way to write this in a way that I would want to do it. So how can I capture, how can I pull in those who might think this is not an interesting topic? I'm gonna, you know what, challenge accepted. I'm gonna pull you in, I'm gonna make it so interesting, I'm gonna tie in so many random things that you are gonna walk away from this wowed with maybe a new interest that you didn't have before because you had written off something because of the way it was presented, but I'm gonna present it some way that is totally new and different. That's my goal, that's my heart, that's what I'm bringing to the table. Every time I sit down and vision cast a new unit, I'm thinking about those things and what I can do to really bring something new to appeal to you and your kids. So now you have it. That's our value system behind why we're doing this, how we are doing this, and what you're going to see woven throughout all of our units, from the way that we create them, from our vision casting meetings, to the way we design them, to the custom illustrations that we bring to the table. We are thinking about how we can engage everyone in the family all at once. If you've been listening to this and you're like, yes, I agree with these things, this aligns with what we value in our homeschool, then probably Gather Round is going to be a really good fit for you, because we believe that we are always learning and growing, and learning is a way of life. We here at Gather Round are always learning and growing. We have not said this is what we do, this is our style, this is what we emulate. We actually are constantly shifting and changing and adapting based on your feedback, based on our experiences, as we create this and learn and grow together, not just you individually in your homes and your families, but us as a company and how we create these units. Year one was very different than year two. And as we've gone through year two, I'm so excited to show you what is coming for year three as we begin writing this. There are amazing things on the horizon. And if you're looking at this and you're like, you know what? No, I don't agree with that. Those are not my value system. That's not what I want. Then I encourage you, take this away from this session. Sit down and think about the why you are homeschooling, what you want to see out of this, and how you feel you need to see that happen. And as you begin to analyze and ask those questions, as a homeschool, you're going to have a much clearer vision of where you're going and how you're going to get there. Thanks for watching.